Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast brought to you by our friends over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the great people over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. For more information about them, visit their website, briargreavesinsurance.com, or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And Briar-Greaves is running a special right now. If you call Briar-Greaves Insurance with the number I just said out loud, or you can read it on the screen right now, if you call Briar-Greaves Insurance this week and have them take a look at your insurance, whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, you will automatically be entered into a raffle to win free tickets to the Bucs' upcoming game this Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles, where you have two 3-0 undefeated teams facing off against each other. All you got to do is give them a call, and you're automatically entered into the raffle. So make sure you give Briar-Greaves a call today. And speaking of today, it is a Victory Monday. So happy Victory Monday to all. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Bucs defeating the New York Jets in dramatic fashion. Once again, a dramatic game for the Cardiac Bucs. We have some injury news updates. We'll reflect more about the game and maybe take a little peek ahead to what's going on with the Bucs against the Eagles. So let's get to it. We'll read comments, super chats, of course, and all of that fun stuff. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me today is our BA. There was a couple of BAs in the house yesterday at Raymond James Stadium, and he was one of them. Bailey Adams joins the show this afternoon. What up, Bailey? How we doing?
Doing well. Happy to be here on a Victory Monday. We could get used to this, right? Victory Monday in week one, Victory Tuesday last week, and a Victory Monday again this week.
Yeah, I like that we have different victory days. There's a possibility for a Victory Friday as well. Maybe we have a Victory Sunday if the Bucs play a Saturday game late in the season, or a playoff game as well on a Saturday. So I like victory every day. It was a pretty victorious week for you as well. You were all over the place. You were at Raymond James Stadium. You were at the Rays makeshift home stadium. You're at UCF on Saturday. So you're really seeing it all. And Bailey, I was saying this on our Pewter post-game show yesterday. I was giving you a shout out. You know, the game happened and it was in such dramatic fashion at the end. I think all of us, but you said it out loud. You're like, I need a second here. I need a second to decompress about what went on at the end of your game. We could talk a little bit about it all, but your overall reaction to what happened in yesterday's game, especially at that end.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously didn't need to get to that point. And I think that was part of that was me saying I need a second, because what I was having to do was go back and rewrite the start of my game recap, rewrite the final scores, rewrite all the closing sequence of the game, update stats, do all of that. So it was I was up against it there as we were trying to do that. But what another insane finish, another insane game. It only seems like the Bucs are capable of playing these crazy kind of games to start this season. But I think the main takeaway for me is that this is it's a pretty depleted roster right now with all the injuries, but they're finding ways to win. Yeah. They're finding ways to come out of tough situations and get the job done. Winning in Atlanta week one was tough. Tough environment as it was. I know Atlanta got blown out yesterday, but that's a team that swept the Bucs last year. So getting that win out of the way was great. Being able to get to 2-0 with a win over the Texans and that tough defense and another tough environment in prime time, breaking that curse for a little bit, that was huge. And then this was supposed to be a little bit of a lighter with respect to the Jets. This was supposed to be a lighter Sunday, and it looked like it was for much of the day. But when you get the field goal blocked and you find yourself suddenly needing another comeback win, they were able to do it again.
They absolutely were. And I like what Todd Bowles had to say in the post-game press conference as well. He did speak today, but I'm referring to what he said yesterday, where he's like, there are other teams crying that they're not 3-0 right now. And he said, last year we would lose games like this. this year we're winning games like this. And then you even look around the league, and you mentioned some of the games, like the Falcons getting absolutely blown out. But you look at a team like the Packers, who everybody was ready to write their name into the Super Bowl after what they did week 1 and even what they did in week 2 as well. And then they lose again in dramatic fashion. There was a lot of dramatic games. I mean, Eagles-Rams was as chaotic as Bucs were as well. And you see how teams can let games slip. I mean, you can even go back to week 1 with how the Ravens, who play tonight against the Lions, how the Ravens, squandered that lead against the Buffalo Bills. So as much as we can, criticize certain things with Bowles and letting the Jets come back into the game in that fourth quarter, there's only a handful of teams remaining in the league that are undefeated for the time being. The Bucs happen to play a couple of them in the coming weeks, with Philadelphia this week and then the 49ers in a couple of weeks. And there was some big injury news with the Niners today as well. But, I kind of look back at what happened with the game, and certainly there was frustrations, and maybe I just try to be a positive guy outside of, talking about the New York Mets, where I still think the Bucs are in a really good spot despite all of the injuries that are going on. Now, the Eagles will be a gigantic test, because it's one thing beating the Jets and a defense that just, doesn't really show up. The Eagles is going to be the toughest test just yet for Tampa Bay.
Absolutely. And it's the start of a pretty tough stretch in general. As you mentioned, the 49ers game in a few weeks as well. But in between that, there's a trip out to Seattle. Seattle's playing really well, just put a whooping up on the Saints yesterday. Seattle's a tough place to play, so that's going to be a difficult one. And then there's the Lions on Monday Night Football. So, I mean, this is a tough stretch, and this is something I wrote about yesterday in I think it was the division update story that I wrote. Yeah. But they're 3-0. They've got these next, 5 games before the bye week. And I think if you can split these next 4 and then beat the Saints, you're going to feel pretty good about going into the bye at 6-2. Obviously, you're going to get, at some point, Tristan Wirfs back, Chris Godwin Jr. back. That's going to be huge. And you'll start to see, toward the end of that, maybe, I don't know if it's going to be before the bye week or after, but Luke Gedeke will be back. So, help is on the way. And if they can weather the storm and avoid that midseason slump that we've seen the last couple of years, you'll start to feel really good about, what they're going to do with this division, and maybe can hopefully wrap it up before week 18. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's the kind of path they're on right now. They have to avoid that midseason slump.
Yeah, and it's funner to look ahead when the team is 3-0. There's no doubt about it, Bailey. Like, the Bucs have been not in the situation of being 3-0 before, but they have been in the situation of, letting things slide in the middle of the season. That's kind of been one of the big knocks on Todd Bowles. So for those that might be listening to the audio version of this, first of all, thank you. So the Bucs' upcoming games, they host the Eagles, then they go out west to Seattle, then they're home against the 49ers, and then they have road games against the Lions and the Saints before going into that bye week. And we'll see what happens with Detroit tonight. I'm getting the feeling that the Lions might be one of those teams, since Ben Johnson moved on and Aaron Glenn moved on, that they might turn into one of those teams where they seem unstoppable at home, but then you get them on the road and it's a little bit of a different story. So I'm very intrigued by tonight's game between the Lions and the Ravens. I want to get to some injury news as well that impacts all of this. And that, of course, is the greatest offensive player in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history. That is Michael Lynn Evans. So Evans got injured in the fourth quarter, about 6:25 to go in the game. And it actually didn't really affect his snap count that much. He was still at 72% for the whole game. Now, granted, he wasn't on the final drive, and that's why his numbers technically dipped a little bit. He was around 78% in that Monday game against the Texans. So really the only reason why it dropped was because he did get injured. But he limped off the field. He punched a cooler, which ironically, the cooler's name was Marshawn Lattimore. So it made more sense why he punched that cooler, and then walked into the tunnel, threw his helmet off as well. At the time, Todd Bowles said he was going to get an MRI, and then the update today was he's getting the MRI tomorrow. But that wasn't the only update, because there was another important part of this. Bowles said that they, and I believe he means the doctors, that they have deemed it as a low grade hamstring strain. And once you hear low grade, you're like, okay, overall, that's a positive sign because I don't know. I'm not a medical professional, but I don't know if that means maybe he'll just miss one game. Maybe he doesn't miss a game at all, but that's much, much better than hearing, hamstring tear, something where he's going to be out several weeks. We're not even at that point just yet. So we got to wait a little bit on the news tomorrow as well once the MRI goes through. But I think the Bucs avoided a catastrophe with missing Evans for several games. And there's a lot more that goes into this with Mike besides just him being so important to the offense, given the record that's on the line, who else is out in the lineup. So I think overall it's positive news with what we heard from Todd Bowles today.
Yeah, I think so. And we'll continue to see as the week goes on. And I know there's already been some talk about, okay, don't push it this week. What happened last year when, he had a bit of a hamstring problem going into the Ravens game on Monday Night Football. Obviously, that became worse on the one deep route, and he cost him a few games from there. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of how they manage this one, much less what the actual diagnosis is. So, even if it is something more minor, we'll see if they're a little cautious with it. I know it's tough considering you're already without Godwin, you're without McMillan, but you've got to be careful with this guy, considering how important he is to the offense. And I mean, especially he's 32 now, I think it is. So
yeah,
you got to be careful with him because you want him around for the long run, and you don't want to get that thing to flare back up and become a bigger problem.
For sure. And Evans, he had an impact in the game. He had the first touchdown for Tampa Bay in the game, but it was his lowest production game from a receiving yard standpoint. He ended the game. I was trying to look it up. It was about like 30 plus yards. So he's just over 100 on the season. I was looking it up before and I had it. So he had 33 yards in the game and a touchdown. So his season total is 140. That puts him 860 yards away from 1,000. There's still 14 games to go. Right now, he would need to average 61.4 yards per game to reach that 1,000. And when you see that number, it's like even with Mike having a low production game yards-wise, he still got 8 targets in that game, only had 4 catches. You hear 61.4, and you're like, okay, that's very manageable because we're still due, and it's very much in him. We're still due for that monster Mike Evans game, where it's like 8 catches, 140 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The problem, and again, it's more than just one thing. The problem is if he misses 2 games, that bumps up to, now he needs 70 yards per game, 80 yards per game. And the way that teams have looked at Mike Evans through these first 3 games, you're almost scrambling for Chris Godwin Jr. to come back because it's opened the door for Emeka Egbuka for sure. But if you want to get Mike the record, you almost need Chris Godwin in there as well to take a little bit of attention off of Mike.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I think we talked about this. I think it was on the Pewter Insider a couple weeks ago. But as time continues to go on, I mean, Emeka Egbuka has gotten off to a fantastic start where you kind of start to wonder how much attention is he going to start to draw away maybe from Evans? Because, I mean, you can never ignore Evans. He's Mike Evans, right?
Yeah.
But, the longer you keep, letting him draw all the attention and letting Egbuka make some of the plays that he's making, I mean, it's something that, the Bucs probably are dreaming about right now, especially considering the situation. But when you can get everybody healthy and everybody back on the field at once, I mean, that's going to be almost impossible to defend, you would think, because you've got Egbuka, you've got a Mike Evans, you've got Chris Godwin Jr. coming back, and then when eventually you add in Jalen McMillan, Sterling Shepard's had a really good start to the season. He has. And then the tight ends haven't even really factored into the passing game at all. And I think maybe once the O-line is in a little bit better shape as far as guys returning to their normal positions, excuse me, I think you'll start to see maybe a little bit more K-Dot and maybe even the short passing game, whatever that may be. So there's going to come a time where there are more weapons, and I think that should open things up for Mike Evans a whole lot.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And it's very interesting looking at this game because from a tight end perspective, K-Dot played 1% more than he did the previous week. And he typically plays over 90%. I believe he was at 92, maybe even 93%. Payne Durham ended up playing more percentage of the snaps than he has so far during the season. Again, it's a small sample size. It's only 3 games so far. And it makes sense why you had both tight ends on more, given the makeshift offensive line and, who they were going against. And yet neither tight end even had a target in this game. Now, Cade Otton was important in Monday night. He had a couple of catches, made that catch to get the ball down to the 2. I think with Cade Otton, we just have to understand at this point, he can do a little bit of everything, but he's just never going to be the first option for the Bucs in this offense. I mean, hell, Baker Mayfield, I think, would rather scramble than, throw it to a tight end if he has both of the options going at the same time. But as I say that, I still think Cade Otton has it in him to – there will be one game this year where, maybe it's not going right for Mike or Emeka Egbuka, whoever the case may be. And Cade Otton does have the propensity to step up and play hero ball when it is called upon. When Mike and Chris and Jalen McMillan were all out, Cade Otton became the number 1 target on this team. He scored game-winning touchdowns. So I think that's good for Tampa Bay, that they kind of have that in their back pocket if they need to turn to it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, too, the 2023 playoff run, I mean, I say run, it was 2 games, but he was, I think, the leading receiver against Philly, and then he also had a pretty good game and a touchdown against the Lions that year. And like you mentioned, last year when there were the injuries in the middle of the season, he became that guy. And I don't think it's one of those things where he's ever going to consistently be that guy on a week-to-week basis, like you said. But having him, I am surprised so far at how little involvement he's kind of had. But I think part of that is down to, the makeup of the O-line and the kind of what they're asking their tight ends to do right now.
Yeah.
But I think it's only a matter of time before, like you said, he does come out and have one of those, 75, 80-yard games with a touchdown. And, last year it was a 2-touchdown day against the Falcons on National Tight Ends Day. I know they lost game, but he had the 2 touchdowns in that game. So, that one of those games I think is coming for Cade.
What do you make of the offensive line and how they did against the Jets specifically on Sunday? And how long can this team go with Elijah Klein and Luke Haggard along the offensive line before it really catches up to them?
I'm going to say not long. I think I'll try to break it down into 3 different phases, because there's obviously the run game didn't really take off. There wasn't much room for Bucky for the little bit that Rashad got. Baker, they extended their streak of games with 100 rushing yards or 100 plus rushing yards, but a lot of that was Baker scrambling. I know he had the 33-yarder and I think ended up with 44 yards himself. They couldn't run the ball, so that's a problem. Pass protection, I was pretty impressed. I mean, Baker stayed pretty clean the whole game. I think they're credited with 1 sack, but that was the one that was the weird sack fumble where Baker lost the ball in the backfield and ended up covering it, all that. But, I didn't see him getting hit a ton back there. It seemed like he was doing a good job getting the ball out, and he has been one of those time to throw guys where he gets the ball out in 2 seconds. He's not asking the offensive line to hold up a whole lot, but the third phase of it is the penalties, and that's probably even worse than the run blocking, where Luke Haggard had 2 holding penalties, Elijah Klein had 2, I think Barton had 1. I don't think we heard Charlie Heck's name, which was a good thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we did Ben Bredesen's either, but yeah, the 2 each from the guards and then another one from Barton. You're not gonna beat a lot of teams when you're constantly setting yourself behind the sticks the way they did.
Yeah, I thought it was an okay performance overall. You just highlighted a lot of the penalties and the holding penalties that went on. And Baker Mayfield said after the game he felt they were ticky-tack, and I think that's
they probably were.
Yeah. I mean, we could spend 2 hours talking about how bad the refereeing was in that game, but nonetheless, they were calling it a ton. And I think Josh Grizzard deserves a lot of credit in this game, because I believe they wanted to go deep early on. I mean, that's definitely a way to exploit the Jets defense, in the secondary besides just Sauce Gardner. But I think he realized on that first drive, while they were able to move the ball, remember, a majority of getting over midfield was a, swing dump off pass to Bucky Irving when he took 25 yards as you were sitting next to me. And I'm like, go to the outside. And he cuts inside. I'm like, he knows what he's doing. What do I know? But then they tried going deep, and that's when the flurry of penalties started to happen. I think Grizzard learned quickly. It's like, okay, the offense has to kind of revert back to what they were doing in Houston of getting rid of the ball quickly. And that's why if Baker was in the pocket for a while, he was probably scrambling. Outside of that, he was trying to get rid of the ball pretty quickly. It wasn't the most ideal running game wise. They got better in the second half, actually, like as far as actually running with the running backs. I know it wasn't ideal for Rashad White and some of the prop bets that we had, but I feel like they ran it a little bit better in the second half. And I also think we might see Dan Feeney starting at guard this week. If let Tristan Wirfs aside, I think if Dan Feeney, if he's here for another week, Todd Bowles mentioned like, well, he was on the Bills practice squad, so it's not like a game shape thing. It's more of a learning the offense. I wouldn't mind pushing that button, especially for this game against the Eagles, where you need your best at it or who's best remaining for this team. I wouldn't mind if they went to Feeney in this matchup.
I was hearing the number 72 one more time away from calling for Dan Feeney yesterday, because I think it was at the point where Haggard already had 2 penalties. He had 2 holding penalties, and then there was another flag, and I thought they were going to call it on him. They didn't. I think that might have been the one on Barton. So if I had heard 72, I might have been like, just get Feeney in there. But no, I think so. I think it really is down to, I mean, he got here, on Wednesday or Thursday last week. So
yeah,
not a lot of time to get the offense and kind of get to know the guys he's playing with. I wouldn't be surprised either to kind of see him take some reps this week with the ones and potentially slide in there, for the Eagles game on Sunday.
Yeah, if Wirfs doesn't play, I would keep Klein in. I think he's got, better potential, and then probably take out Haggard and put Feeney in there. And then if Tristan Wirfs does come back, well, then again, you're flipping everything else. Graham Barton goes to center, Redison's at guard, and then really you're just trying to find who's going to be your right guard. And then again, it's either Feeney or Elijah Klein. It's not the worst problem to have. And if anyone was going to have a problem with us not doing roll call, there is no problem, because we are about to do one of our favorite things to do on Monday Pewter Report podcast. We're a little bit fashionably late, but that's fine. It's time for some roll call. That's right, Bucs fans and Pewter people. If you're new to the show, we love doing this thing on Mondays around 4:20. Sometimes we're fashionably late, like today, because we have awesome fans from all over the globe, not just in Tampa or Florida or even the United States. We have some awesome international fans as well. And we love interacting with everybody as much as we possibly can. And we do that by doing this thing called roll call. So one of us will go in a conversation about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in the meantime, if you want to put in the comments where you were watching from, we'll put on the screen where you're watching from, what town or location, like Hughes 44, shocker, watching from Syracuse. But I'll get it rolling, Bailey, if you want to look at some of the comments and start putting it up on the screen. But I want to talk about the overall overview of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. They are 3-0 right now in the league, and there's only a handful of teams, especially in the NFC, that are undefeated. It's the Bucs, it's the Eagles, it's the 49ers, who, of course, the Bucs play both of those teams, and that's it for the NFC. And on the AFC side, you got the Bills, the Chargers, and probably the biggest surprise, the Indianapolis Colts. So for all the things that people want to get mad about with Todd Bowles, with the defense, with some of the issues going on with this team, there are only so many teams and fan bases right now that can say that their team is undefeated after 3 weeks. I'm not ready to put Todd Bowles in the, coach of the year category by any means, but the way that the Bucs have gone through adversity so far with all the injuries, from Tristan Wirfs not being available for the beginning of the season, to Chris Godwin Jr., not being available for the beginning of the season. Then all the injuries, Kalijah Cansey, Cody Mauch, now Luke Gedeke, and the list goes on and on and on. I think when it's all said and done by the end of the year, there's going to be a couple of awards going out to Bucs personnel. I'm not sure about Bowles for head coach of the year, but I think it's right about time that Jason Light gets the opportunity for GM of the year. And he probably doesn't want that, or executive of the year. Probably doesn't want that because there is like a history with people winning that award and then they're not with the team for that much longer. But I feel like Jason Light is in a pretty good spot. And part of the reason why Jason Light will probably be in the running is because he drafted this guy, Emeka Egbuka, in the first round. And what a freaking awesome one-handed catch that he made against Sauce Gardner in this game. Right now, if you look at different odds and things like that, Emeka Egbuka is first in Offensive Rookie of the Year. He has the best odds to win it right now. That was plus 1,600 before the season began. And people are like, why are you drafting an offensive player right now? All you need is defense, blah, blah, blah. Did it end up being a pretty good pick? You're damn right it did, knowing what else went on with this team. And that was before even this injury to Mike Evans. And the Bucs still addressed a lot on defense. Jacob Parrish, hello, he's looking pretty damn good as well. And that's not the only individual award that I think might be given out this year. Because Baker Mayfield has to be in the running at this point for the MVP. 3 weeks in a row, 3 clutch and comeback drives to lead the Bucs to game-winning drives and starting the season 3-0. He doesn't have any turnovers, knock on wood. He has 6 touchdown passes. He's getting it done with his feet as well. And Baker's never going to be scrambling and rushing-wise like Lamar Jackson, who we'll see tonight, or Josh Allen, who does it a ton. But Baker Mayfield has fanfare around him. People embody what he does on the football field. He finds a way to get the job done. It's not always pretty, but, I mean, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a spiteful guy as well, which I certainly respect. So I think when it's all said and done, at the end of the season, we might see a couple of individual accolades for the Bucs. And then the more they win, the better. But I think we might see Baker MVP, at least in the conversation, Emeka Egbuka Rookie of the Year, and Jason Light Executive of the Year, especially with the way that they're winning with all of these backups. I think there's an opportunity for some big-time individual awards for the Bucs, even though they want the main team award, which is winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the start to the season for Emeka Egbuka for a lot of reasons. I took him, one of them being I took him for Rookie of the Year at plus 2,500 back, I don't know, months ago, I think. At this point, through 3 weeks, I wish I had put some more money on that, but I liked it at plus 2,500 and would love to see him continue to do what he's doing. But a lot of people in the chat from places all over. I think the first time I've had to do the roll call as far as not doing the conversation or the rant, but putting them up, and I was getting far behind. So thanks everybody for sticking with me. But
yeah, it's tougher than you think because we have so many awesome fans.
They're going quick. Port McNeil, British Columbia, Canada was one that I saw. Chester in the UK.
Nice.
This one I starred for you. Cincinnati, Ohio. Go Bucs and go Reds. Sorry, Matt.
That's all right. AJ's a good dude. But, yeah.
Belgrade, Serbia was another one. But awesome seeing everybody in the chat here. Yeah.
Appreciate everyone that came out for a roll call today as we celebrate this Victory Monday with the Bucs having a 3-0 start. By the way, just want to give a reminder to everybody again, Briar Greaves Insurance. Give them a call today at 813-876-4166. You give them a call, have them do a rundown of your insurance, and you will be entered into a free raffle to win free tickets in the first level section at Raymond James Stadium for Bucs versus Eagles on Sunday. So all you got to do is give them a call, and they will put you in a free raffle to win tickets for Bucs versus Eagles on Sunday. And if you didn't already know, Pewter Report, Scott Reynolds has been a Briar Greaves customer for years. There simply is not a better insurance company in the Tampa Bay area. So visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com to see for yourself. Briar Greaves Insurance is family-owned, and their main goal is helping people. They want to help people find the right insurance policy for you and your family. Whether it's home or auto, boating insurance, or business insurance, turn to Briar Greaves and find out why their personal touch and customer service sets them apart. The days of waiting on hold to speak with an insurance representative that you don't even know are over. With Briar Greaves Insurance, you'll have a relationship with your agent who can answer your questions and advise you on the best policies. As 2 recent hurricanes have shown all of us that live in the Tampa Bay area, there is a cost to living in paradise. And Briar Greaves can help make sure you have the right hurricane and flood insurance to make sure you and your home are protected. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com today. That's Briar, B-R-I-E-R, Greaves, G-R-I-E-V-E-S. Or call their office today at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And tell them that Pewter Report sent you. And again, give them a call. Enter the free raffle to win free tickets to Bucs vs. Eagles. Coming up this Sunday, going to be one of the most exciting matchups, and probably another chaotic one as well with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. By the way, also want to give a shout out to all of our Pewter Platinum members. Thank you so much for your support of pewterreport.com. Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Connor Four Reels, Kevin Thomas, Leighton Carter, Brandon Riley, Alec Bickler, Nick Dubuque, Zach Jarvis, Mario Thomas, Eric McMillan, Dominic Tarantino, HK Bucks, Brayon Pinkney, and The Real Maverick. Thank you all so much for your support. We also want to give a shout out to our Pewter Premier members. We'll let that scroll on the screen because we have a lot of you. But we thank you for your support. And we will have a Pewter Insider coming up this Friday at 1:30. Bailey, I want to talk a little bit about the defense because overall I'm impressed, but I think we got to break down that fourth quarter as well. What are your thoughts about how Tampa Bay went about that fourth quarter? Because they were blitzing, taking the ball away. I mean, Jamel Dean had a pick six, but then they went away from him in the fourth quarter, and I think it allowed the Jets to kind of get back into the game. But, how do you feel overall about Tampa Bay's defense?
Yeah, it felt a little bit like they kind of sat back a little more than I would have liked. It seemed like, and I'd have to go back and watch the tape, but from what it seemed like, it felt like they were playing. They thought they were playing with like a 50-point lead rather than maybe more like a 20-point lead, because the aggressiveness came away, and it just kind of felt like they were almost like, all right, we got this. We've got it in the bag. We'll kind of coast the rest of the way. And at first I was thinking, okay, it's the Jets are killing some clock, and they're not going to be able to come back into it. But then you combine that with the offense being unable to extend drives and kind of going quiet themselves, you let the Jets back into the game. And I don't think, the aggressiveness was there anymore. And, it was weird because on that drive, I'll say all of that, on that scoring drive that ended with the Allen Lazard touchdown, they had 2 sacks to start the drive.
Yeah.
That was when Yaya got his sack. That was when Levante got his sack. And, credit to the Jets for overcoming that to an extent. They got to give them their credit too, because Tyrod was making plays, and finding Garrett Wilson, they were getting the open receiver. But yeah, it felt like that killer instinct kind of was put to the side and didn't really show up for the Bucs in this one.
Yeah, I don't know if the Bucs can say they have a killer instinct just yet. They have survival mode, which is important, but I don't know if you could say that they have killer instinct, because it's like week 1. Killer instinct would be hitting the extra point, going up by 4, and making sure the Falcons don't score a touchdown. Killer instinct, well, I guess the common theme is Chase McLaughlin. Killer instinct is, hitting some field goals, taking an extra lead, and not having to, score late in the end. And then, of course, killer instinct is not even allowing the Jets to get back into the game or even, take the lead right then and there. But I was reading an interesting stat before. This was from Seth Walder, and then Connor Hughes is a Jets reporter. After blitzing on 63% of Tyrod Taylor's dropbacks in the first 3 quarters, they came just 23% of the time in the fourth. Tyrod Taylor was 14 of 21 for 80 yards and that pick 6 on 8 possessions in quarters 1 through 3. Then Taylor was 12 of 15 for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns in the fourth. Some other stats, the Bucs committed 14 penalties for 124 yards. And, we've seen this before, though, where the Bucs can kind of let teams back into the game. But I also kind of just blame the refs once again, because if Allen Lazard doesn't catch that ball in the fourth quarter, we're not even talking about a Will McDonald blocked field goal. We're not talking about a Baker Mayfield comeback or anything like that, because I think the Bucs would have had it in the bag by then.
It's funny you say if he hadn't caught it. Well, he didn't. But if they hadn't ruled that he did catch it, I still don't know how they went with that call. And I was talking to my dad earlier. Actually, my dad had said I can see why they call on the field, why they call it a touchdown. But the replay review, that's why you have replay review, and you could see the ball on the ground. And I still have no idea how that happened. I could, like you said earlier, we could spend 2 hours counting down all the different mistakes that this crew made, throwing flags and saying, "Oh, there's no foul for this," and not going to review when they should have gone to review, not getting the review right when they went to review. I know, I think it was Greg Allman had put out there the blocked field goal that McDonald had actually come down on, I believe it was Klein's foot or something like that, and made contact with him, which it's a tough call to make because you're not always going to see the slightest bit of contact, but he leapt over the line, and by the letter of the law, it's supposed to be called. But it was a kind of a combination of things. It wasn't all on the Buccaneer defense. I think they played their role in the Jets coming back in this game, but yeah, I mean, if that touchdown call isn't made and upheld, you're talking about a defense that gave up 13 points. So I mean, I think on the whole for the first 3 weeks, I've been pretty impressed with the Bucs defense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of promising signs with this team too, that they will get better as the season goes along. I mean, Hassan Reddick, not the exact revenge game that you want, but he did have that big tackle on a 4th and 1 on Braylon Allen. By the way, it's Hassan Reddick's birthday today, so happy birthday to Hassan Reddick. Yaya Diaby got a sack. You mentioned that before. But I think one of the most impressive things to me, Bailey, is the play of the entire secondary. And we know how good Antoine Winfield Jr. is, and Tyke Smith is a budding star for sure. But the Bucs have something in the slot with Jacob Parrish. I mean, he blitzed and had a sack today. He's all over the field. He's making great plays. Jamel Dean has a pick 6. Zion McCollum is looking like a number 1 corner. Benjamin Morrison, he's coming in. He's subbing in with Jamel Dean a little bit. He makes a tackle for a loss. The Bucs are going to make life difficult for any receiving core that's coming in. And I know the Jets don't have a really good receiving core outside of Garrett Wilson, but you look at the 3 games they've had, they're not allowing big plays down the field. Yeah, there's some underneath stuff, and there was missed tackles, but that goes for the whole defense. It'll be a true test this weekend, against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But the corners went from arguably the biggest weakness on the Bucs last year to arguably the best strength on this team, plus the pass rush finally coming around. I am super, super impressed with this group in the secondary.
I am too. I think Jamel Dean, these 3-week stretch that he's played so far has been some of the best Jamel Dean we've seen in years. And obviously with a pick 6 yesterday, getting his hands on the ball. And even though he was called for the pass interference on the second one, he still held on to the second ball. Too. It's one of those things where it didn't count, but in my head I'm thinking, well, at least he didn't drop it. Like it's the kind of thing that you've come used to with this whole secondary. But he had the pick, like you mentioned. Parrish, I think, has been fantastic all 3 weeks to start the season. Morrison getting off that block and getting tackle for loss on that screen was impressive. And this will be a tough matchup, coming up on Sunday with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. They've got some good receivers that they'll see in the following weeks. And I'm curious though, because like you said, these explosive plays that they are allowing, they're not downfield shots. They are the, Bijan Robinson, they're
the Chubb play.
Chubb, Woody Marks, like they're all these, 5-6 yard passes that more often than not has been Servassier Dennis maybe being out of position or missing a tackle or for whatever reason. And so that has been the case for the last 3 weeks, is that, they're not giving up these chunk plays down the field the way that you've seen them in the last couple of years.
They're not, and they're going to have to be super, super disciplined against the Eagles, because we even saw Tyrod Taylor kind of extend plays a little bit, rush when he needs to. Levante did have a sack, but there was also several times where he just kind of straight up missed them. And, if they're missing Tyrod Taylor, they're definitely going to miss Jalen Hurts when he's scrambling around. And I actually thought the Jets did a poor job of not getting Breece Hall in the game that much anymore. Credit to the Bucs, absolutely, for stopping the run, but they didn't even really try to target Breece Hall. They did like on the first 2 drives, and then they just went away from it. I don't think the Eagles will make that same mistake, and they shouldn't. So, yeah, I mean, so many tests for this team. They're going to have to be disciplined, stay in their rushing lanes too, because Jalen Hurts will certainly tuck it and run. I don't want to do the pregame show too quickly, but we will have a preview show on Wednesday. Bucs versus Eagles preview. And we will have a show on Thursday as well at 4:00. So, yeah, a lot of stuff to look forward to on Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. Let's get into some super chats. But first, want to talk about Splash Sports. Of course, hopefully you joined our Splash Sports Survivor League that went on, but we also got quick picks going on each week as well. Join over 2.5 million people playing on Splash Sports. It's the home for Survivor, Pick'em, and Quick Picks. Whether you want to create your own contest with friends or take a shot at life-changing prize pools, Splash Sports has you covered. You can turn $20 into $1,000 with the best multipliers in daily fantasy sports. Yeah, with the Quick Picks, the more players you pick, the more that money multiplies if you win. Do you think you've got what it takes? Prove that you're the sharpest fan in Bucs Nation and download the Splash Sports app, joining their various leagues, pools, and quick picks. And Splash Sports has a special promotion for tonight's Monday Night Football game between the Lions and the Ravens. If you build it's got to be at least 3 legs. If you build a 3+ leg quick pick and you enter that today, and one of those picks includes either Jared Goff or Lamar Jackson, you will get a 100% boost on your payout if you win. So it's got to be a 3-leg quick pick, at least 3, and it has to include either one of the starting quarterbacks tonight of Jared Goff or Lamar Jackson, and get a 100% boost on your payout if you win. Maximum bet has to be $20. So take advantage of that over on Splash Sports. Get those quick picks. You could see them for Pewter Picks and Props as well. I'll have my picks for tonight's game in a little bit, which you could see on our YouTube channel. But shout out to Splash Sports. Okay, let's get to these super chats. Appreciate everybody for your generosity. We'll start with Mark Fisher, a.k.a. Revfish. Says, Bowles did the same soft defense versus the Jets. That cost us at the end of the 49ers game. Why change what had worked so well for the first 3 quarters? Don't understand. Yeah, I think part of it is, you want to, Bowles said this in the postgame press conference. It's not like the Jets beat them deep or anything like that. They methodically moved down the field, and credit to the Jets for that. Credit to Tyrod Taylor for extending plays a little bit. But the goal is you don't want to get beat deep in those situations. You want to kill as much time as you possibly can. Now, there was still too much time in the game to go about. I'm not going to call it prevent defense, but the thought process, I'm not saying I agree with it, but the thought process is you but if they are going to advance the ball, it's methodically, takes more time, no deep shots, no big shots. That kind of happened with the Jets. The problem was the Bucs weren't answering on offense with touchdowns. They were answering with field goals. And I still go back to, if they hit that field goal to go up 9, no one's really talking about this.
Yeah, and I'm curious too how much and again, they practice in the heat and they do all that all off season, but with the offense the Bucs offense not really being able to run the ball and kind of kill some clock, give the defense more of a breather. I wonder how much of that long drive, once they got a few first downs and kind of extended the drive, how much that started coming into play for the Bucs defense. Because I had never heard, them say this, that I know that on the field temperature can often be pretty crazy, but they were saying it was 120 at kickoff and 130 at halftime.
It's
So
insane.
I wonder how much there is to that too when a team is getting those conversions. Like, again, credit to the Jets for doing so. If that was starting to be, wearing on the Bucs a little bit. And it's funny too, because the first touchdown drive happened, and I think even at that point it's 34-9. Not 34. That was the UCF score. It was still it was out of the hand, and it was more that second touchdown drive that ended in the Lazard catch that wasn't a catch. So I understand the frustration of, kind of sitting back, and the numbers you brought up earlier about, laying off on the blitzes, that what was working so well early on. I understand the frustration with that, but some of these factors in this game just didn't make any sense, and it all kind of added up together to get the Jets back into it.
Yeah, I called this game a fever dream. The key, though, is the Bucs can't allow that to continue. It's one thing with the Jets, but other teams will take advantage of it. So I think that's important as well. Michael Wags, thanks for the $4.99 super chat, says, never felt so strongly about the refs being against us in a game. Lazard catch and Ibuka no catch. Jamel's second interception taken away. Glad we could manage a W. I haven't seen the replay of Dean's second interception, quote unquote, that was negated by penalty. But the fact that they didn't even look at Emeka Ibuka's catch on the sideline is utterly ridiculous. We're talking about a huge moment in the game, and you're not even going to take a second to look at it. And on top of that, Bowles called the timeout to give them more time to look at it, and they didn't do that either. I think Baker Mayfield was absolutely right for not calling out the refs, because he was kind of asked about it, but he was certainly pretty angered about the situation. I think he's absolutely right. And the refs need to be held accountable. I'm not even talking about this game. I think across the league. The problem is all the league does is try to defend these refs left and right when they make all of these mistakes. And I don't know. It's ridiculous to me.
They're so overprotected. I feel like there's no transparency into how they're reviewed and graded on a game-to-game basis and throughout the season. And it's frustrating. And the thing is, I understand, and I don't really, but if you want to give them they weren't going to review the Ibuka catch because they didn't want to give the Bucs a timeout. But once Bowles called the timeout, that excuse is out the window. So I don't understand, like, not even for a second looking at that. I don't know. I didn't get that. I didn't get a lot of things that they were doing in this game. So I don't even know that it was necessarily a thing where the refs were against the Bucs. I think this was just an incompetent refereeing crew, officiating crew, and there are a lot of those throughout the NFL. There's a lot of incompetent crews, and it's a really frustrating thing to watch just as a football fan in general.
I agree with you. Mark Fisher with another $4.99 super chat. Thank you very, very much. Says, blocked field goal. Are we always vulnerable to that, or do you know if the guards made a mistake? Still optimistic and psyched about 3-0. Definitely should still be optimistic. So Will McDonald is just an athletic freak. There's a viral video, I don't know if people have seen it, where he jumps. The car is parked, but he jumps over the top of a parked car. And it's not just like a small car. It's legit like an SUV that he's jumping over. He's got insane athleticism. Todd Bowles was talking today about how they completely just have like new offensive linemen blocking on the punt block and on the punt and on the field goals, which he kind of credited to why there were some mistakes, especially with the punt block. I don't know who you blame with Will McDonald jumping over the top. I mean, unless you want Elijah Klein, and there's photo and video of McDonald landing on Klein's foot, which would be a penalty. Unless you want Elijah Klein to be like Miley Cyrus and Party in the USA, throw your hands up and let him like knock into him. I don't know what else you're really supposed to do on that play. It was a freakish athletic play. However, we're talking about 3 games for the Bucs. 2 of them, there have been a block of some sorts. That can't continue.
Yeah, it's the McDonald thing. It's difficult because if you are blocking in that situation, do you know he's going to try to leap over you?
Right.
Because if you think, okay, he might leap, yeah, you could go high, but as soon as you go high, maybe he goes low and he gets by. So it's a tough spot to be in. And when a guy can make a play like that, that's the kind of thing where you have to just tip your cap and be like, this guy is a freak and he can do that. But yeah, with the punt in Houston, that I think was a combination of blocking and just it seemed like Riley Dixon is taking way too long. He thinks he has all the time in the world to get the kickoff. So I think there was still some slow ones on Sunday against the Jets. So hopefully that's not something that continues, and I'm sure that's something they should be, catching and working on, and making sure that he's getting the ball off as quickly as he can.
Yeah, Riley Dixon did not have a good game. He didn't boot the ball far, gave the Jets somewhat okay field position, and then he finally kicked it deep, and it went into the end zone for a touchback. So not ideal. Jordy Peterson, thank you for the $1.99 super chat, says, Victory Monday! Big statement game coming up. No doubt about it. This is a huge matchup for the Bucs. I'm not going to call it a measuring stick game based on all the injuries that Tampa Bay has, but I think the Bucs are starting to get taken seriously this season, and the 3-0 start helps, and the dramatic wins has helped. They will, for real, be taken seriously if they beat the Eagles on Sunday.
Yeah, because this is obviously not just a 3-0 Eagles team, but it's the defending Super Bowl champions. It's a defending Super Bowl champion team that didn't lose a lot in the offseason, so it's largely the same group trying to come back and make a repeat run. And it's a good team. They're from what I've gathered, they're relatively healthy. I know Lane Johnson left the game on Sunday, but that was said to just be a stinger and that he should be good to go. So I think they have the health advantage right now coming into this game, which is the opposite of what it was like last year, coming into week 4 also. When they came to Tampa, I think they might have been missing Lane Johnson, or maybe it was Dickerson or whoever. Somebody on the line, they were missing AJ Brown. Like they were pretty depleted when they came to Tampa last year. So the Bucs are kind of getting the reverse of that this year.
The other injury problem they might have, I don't know if you saw the video, but like Jordan Mailata punched AJ Brown in the stomach in celebration after, and AJ was like, what the hell, that hurt. But if you're not going to the Bucs game next week and you want to go out and watch them, or there's a good slate of college football this upcoming Saturday, or maybe you want to go and watch Ravens-Lions tonight. That's a great football game. Highly recommend you go to Walk-Ons and watch those games. They have TVs all over the place. So college football Saturday and NFL Sunday, it's perfect because they'll have a ton of games on. It's actually a great spot to tailgate before the Bucs game or go to after the Bucs game as well once the game is done, because it's a 1:00 game, so you still got the 4 o'clocks in Sunday Night Football. It's right down the road from Raymond James Stadium. It's not that far. There's one in Wesley Chapel. There's another in Lakeland, and the Midtown Tampa one is pretty close to Raymond James Stadium. So head on over to Walk-Ons. Try their kickoff cocktails. The Walk-Ons Whiskey Sour, the Player's Punch, the Strawberry Mule. There's awesome, awesome drinks that they have. They got a ton of happy hour as well, including today. You can go from 3 p.m. till close. So enjoy Monday Night Football. Watch that. And the Tuesday is a big one as well. All-day happy hour, including $5 Tito. So tons of great deals and food. They have Touchdown Tuesdays as well on Tuesdays, where rewards members of Walk-Ons earn double the points at Walk-Ons. Big screens, bold snacks, and all the hype over at Walk-Ons. Try their winning shots, too. The Lemon Drop, Washington Apple. I'm sure all the Washington players on this Bucs roster would like that. The Tropical Vegas Bomb, green tea, and Mexican candy as well. So check out Walk-Ons, one of their 3 locations. Fantastic time. I was just there either last weekend or 2 weekends ago. Always a blast, and you should check it out, too. So shout out to Walk-Ons.
Yeah, the college football slate next weekend, Ryder Cup action.
Yes. I can't wait
fun
for the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. It's right in my backyard. Bethpage, Long Island, New York. I'm from Massapequa, so it's only like a 25-minute drive. So, shout out Bethpage Black. All right, a couple more super chats to get to. And USA, baby. YO Bucko, thanks for the $4.99 super chat. Says, how do you grade Grizzard so far? And when should we worry about other teams wanting him as a head coach? Bailey, I'll let you answer this one first. How do you feel Josh Grizzard has done?
I think he's done a really good job, especially with the hand he's been dealt. They come into the season, they are missing their all-pro left tackle. They are missing, a Pro Bowl 1,000-yard wide receiver in Chris Godwin Jr. They're missing, a guy who finished last season on a 7-game touchdown streak, I think it was, in Jalen McMillan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already tough enough as it is coming into the season. They're making their contingencies. They go into week 1. They've got the offensive line switch up where they're moving their center to left tackle, their left guard to center, starting an active or a practice squad player, promoting him to the active roster. All that's tough enough as it is. Think he did a good job. Got to the plays they needed to get to have success there. And then things just get even worse. I mean, Luke Gedeke goes out with the injury. Cody Mauch gets hurt, is out for the season. Michael Jordan wasn't able to be elevated this week because he was hurt. So you're starting 2 new guards, starting 2 new tackles, and no one is in their right spots. So have had to kind of overcome that. I think that's part of the reason why the run game hasn't taken off to what it was last year. But I've been really happy with the way they've gotten to the screen game. Sterling Shepard, he has had now 2 of those yesterday in that game where he had 2 20-yard catch and runs, I think it was. We've seen Bucky do it. We've seen Rashad do it a little bit. And I think if I have any kind of issues with what's been going on, and maybe it is just a personnel thing because of what they're having to run, but I didn't think Rachaad White was involved enough in week 1. I thought they corrected that in week 2, and I didn't think he was involved enough yesterday. And I'm not just saying that because of my prop bet. I just think it was an opportunity to get another fresh running back in there and try to make some stuff happen, get him the ball in space out in the screen game. But again, that's kind of a small thing when they're 3-0 and they've managed to overcome the obstacles they've had personnel-wise on offense. I think you have to be pretty happy with what Grizzard has done so far. And yeah, when he was hired, I think that the worry should have been, taking place already, because that's what happens lately is the Bucs find a good offensive coordinator and he's gone after 1 year. Hopefully that's not the case this year, because I'd like to see, them be able to build something here with Grizzard.
Yeah, and you already see people being like, oh, potential head coach candidate Josh Grizzard. I'm with you on the Rachaad White stuff. I was surprised to see on the snap counts that Rachaad White had 3% less snaps that he did against the Texans, just based on how good he was against the Texans. Then you add into what we were talking about before of it was 120 degrees on the field. Like, wouldn't you want a stable rotation of running backs? We actually saw less of Sean Tucker at home in Tampa as far as like playing on offense than we did in the first 2 games when the Bucs were on the road. Not that he was on the field that much for the offense. I don't think you could be thrown into the fire any more than Josh Grizzard has through the first 3 games. For everything that you said about the personnel and who's in and who's out, who's getting injured mid-game, but also that it's crunch time at the end. You need to call the plays to help the offense move down the field, and he has every single time. So I'm going to give him a B+ starting out through the first 3 games, given all of the circumstances. And Scott Reynolds made a great point on yesterday's post-game show. He's not predictable by any means. You can't really get a feel just yet for what he's going to call, and I think that's a good thing. And the run game, it hasn't been completely depleted. It's certainly not what it was last year, but they're getting production in certain little areas, like Rachaad White on Monday Night Football or how they ran it in the second half. So I think that's important too. JG, thanks for the $2 super chat. Says, first quarter was like REFS, refs. It certainly was. I mean, the first quarter was ridiculous. I think there was 11 penalties overall on each side. There was more penalty yards than there were offensive yards for the Bucs and the Jets. It was just horrible. And, some of those penalties were warranted. Jets defensive tackle Quinnen Williams was bursting through that offensive line, and, the lineman kind of had to tackle him. But there were some ticky-tack calls as well, as Baker Mayfield mentioned. I even thought they called it was either holding or pass interference penalty on Sauce Gardner on Mike Evans. It was a 3rd and 29. Again, unbiased, like that wasn't a penalty, but the Bucs will certainly take it. And then you add in, all the BS with what was reviewed, what wasn't reviewed. It was a bad game by the referees as well.
Yeah, you know what it reminded me of? I don't remember I don't know what year you started with Pewter Report and started with the Bucs, but I think it was 2016, a home game against the Raiders. I want to say it might have actually been way longer than that. I'm not sure, but the Bucs had it was either the Bucs or the Raiders. There was hundreds of yards of penalties in that game, and it was impossible to watch. I'm trying to remember the year. I think it was 2016.
Did the Raiders win in overtime?
Yeah, I think it was that game, and there was just flags everywhere, and I was starting to remind me of that a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, I wasn't with Pewter Report yet, but I definitely remember that
Yeah.
game because that was wild. I thought there was a funny comment, so I wanted to get to this. Buckin, who is a YouTube channel member, says Baker Mayfield has become what we thought Johnny Manziel would be. Kind of true, and they're both teammates of and throwing to Mike Evans at wide receiver.
I see people refer to him as the Tom Brady of Johnny Manziels. So
I love
like
that. Shout out to Baker. He's having such a great season, and hopefully he continues. So, yeah, love that comment for sure. Moises Souza, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says bad calls by the refs yesterday. That was not a touchdown by Lazard, and Ibuka's catch was a legit catch. Total agreement there. Total agreement. It was a bad showing by the refs. Seemed like not many were in favor of the Bucs, but ultimately the Bucs were still able to prevail despite the bad refereeing, and hopefully that does not continue moving forward. I don't want to see bad reffing.
Yeah, never do.
Just a reminder for everybody as we close out the show. No show tomorrow because the Bucs are back on a regular week. So no show tomorrow, but Wednesday we have the Bucs versus Eagles preview. That will be at 4:00 on our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. We'll have another show on Thursday at 4:00, and then our Pewter Insider will be on Friday at 1:30. We'll also have the Pewter pregame show on Sunday at 9 a.m. and the Pewter Game Day show at 1 o'clock. So a lot of content coming up from pewterreport.com. If you're not already doing so, please make sure you are following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Pewter Report. And our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video as well. How you feeling about the Bucs 24 and change hours after the Bucs became 3-0? How do you feel about their chances against the Eagles? We'd love to see all of those comments. So that's going to do for us on today's show. For Bailey Adams, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you on Wednesday for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.